And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes! Echo down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange! 145!
Oh my god!
Decollage.
What is it?
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
The methane would be igniting the flare, correct?
Yikes. You read? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another NSF live stream from right here on the Space Coast of Florida. You are currently taking a live look over at Space Launch Complex 40, where SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket is getting ready to launch the Starlink 12-23 mission in just under 1 hour's time. Seeing a bunch of 5x5s in chat, y'all, we are off to a great start. It is a beautiful night here on Florida Space Coast, but as usual, I will first go over the team members who will be joining us tonight because I cannot do this by myself. So first and foremost, I'm being joined by the one and only Mr. Sawyer Rosenstein. Sawyer, how are you?
I am doing great, Max. It is a beautiful night. It is going to be a jam-packed couple days full of launches from both coasts, multiple vehicles, and this is a great way to kick it off.
It is indeed going to be a very busy couple of days starting tonight. But before we get to that, we also have the very talented D Wise out with me in the field with all of the cameras. D, how you doing?
You know, I am doing really well this evening. It is a beautiful night. We have so many stars, and I can see a rocket on the pad, so it is a good night.
Indeed it is. Any night with a rocket on the launch pad, as we like to say, is a good night. It'd be even better if it launches, but having a rocket on the pad is very nice in itself. But just as a reminder, folks, the way we do streams here at NSF, please feel free to tag us in the chat at NASASpaceflight, and we will get through all of your questions as best as we can with the most amount of knowledge as we can to help guide you through either what you're looking at or what else you might be curious about. So, with Falcon 9 on the pad, Sawyer, would you mind going through what Falcon 9 is carrying tonight and where it's going?
Absolutely, and this is not your ordinary Starlink launch. I have to say that. I haven't said that yet. One of the cool things about this, if you like numbers, is that this is the 12-23 mission carrying -23 satellites. So there will be 23 satellites on board. That includes our favorite mix of the 10 normal V2 minis, as well as 13 of the direct-to-cell satellites, which are, again, designed to be able to have a special LTE connection so that phones on Earth can utilize those satellites for internet connections on the go as well. This launch will be going towards the southeast, as is typically the case for the Group 6 and Group 12 missions. This one will be landing just off the northern part of the Bahamas, so it's our favorite southeasterly trajectory for tonight.
As per usual, that we have gotten used to with both the Group 12 and the Group 6 Starlink constellations. A bit unique and easier to tell the difference between the Group 12 and the Group 6 because the Group 12 missions have had that mixture of V2 mini satellites and also the direct-to-cell satellites, whereas the Group 6s have all been pretty much only V2 minis, and they've been cramming a lot more satellites into those two payload fairings as of recent, and they have now launched a record 28 satellites. I believe, is it 3 times now, Sawyer? I think it's 3 times.
I believe it's 3, the most recent one being the last launch that we covered from the Cape.
Yes, because they happen so often around here.
And another fun number of why this isn't your ordinary Starlink, this is the 250th launch dedicated to the Starlink program and the 20th for Group 12.
Wow. Yeah, that is remarkable. And it's also SpaceX's 50th launch of the year. And mind you, we are not even out of April yet. So I believe that puts us on a cadence projection of around between 150 and 160 launches by the end of the year, should they keep this cadence up. But we are only just into Q2, quarter two, and we still have a long way left to go in 2025. So we'll see if SpaceX can keep that cadence up. But on the docket over at Slick 40, as you can see on your screen, is booster B1077. And tonight is rather special because this would be its 20th flight. And this would be the 1077 would be the 10th Falcon 9 Block 5 first stage booster to reach that 20 flight milestone. So keep our fingers crossed that that actually happens. But going through its flight history here, it started out in life with Crew 5, GPS 3, SV06, Inmarsat I6F2, CRS-28, Intelsat G37, NG-20, TD-7, and 12 other previous Starlink missions. So it has quite the history behind it to this point. Just about 8.5 minutes into flight, assuming all goes well, and we have a nominal stage separation. The first stage will be meeting the drone ship Just Read the Instructions just north of the Bahamas for hopefully a successful recovery. And stationed just a bit farther downrange, helping out with scooping the fairings out of the water, is their fairing recovery ship Bob. So it's business as usual for SpaceX tonight, but kind of, sort of, not really, because they've been really pushing the edge when it comes to flying Falcon 9 and flying more and more and more Starlink satellites, either from Slick 40 or LC-39A. So, and the reason why we say they're pushing the edge here, so this is the first of, granted, SpaceX isn't the only one flying in the next day and a half or so, but they are of course the ones starting off tonight. And Sawyer, what else do we have going on tomorrow to keep us so busy?
Yeah, so about those internet satellites, as you pointed out, there is a competitor, and that is Amazon's Kuiper program. So the first operational Kuiper flight is scheduled once again, at least, to try and launch tomorrow. That is the 28th. That is scheduled for 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It is a 2-hour-long window, and hopefully they can get Project Kuiper off, because then, just 2 hours and 51 minutes after the opening of the Atlas V window, is another window for Starlink satellites, with Group 12-10 set to launch from nearby LC-39A. And in case that wasn't fast enough, don't forget then 2 days after that, there's still another Starlink planned from the Cape. So that's the launch Monday. So tonight, Sunday. Then you've got Monday for Kuiper, Monday for Starlink, and Wednesday for Starlink. And that's just the Eastern range, because don't forget there's another Starlink, and you also have the Firefly mission, both from the West Coast, also happening within that same time frame.
I was going to say, don't you dare forget about Firefly, because that's happening right tomorrow morning. And guess who's helping out with the live stream with Firefly?
Would that happen to be
NSF?
Hey!
You guessed it, yeah! Yeah, I was going to say, don't forget that one, because that certainly plays into the equation here, at least for us at NSF, because we are firing on all cylinders for all 4 of these missions, and starting out tonight. So fingers crossed. Yeah, I was going to Kevin in the back channel in all caps. Don't you dare forget about Firefly. Yeah, no, Kevin, we could never forget about Firefly, but we can sort of sometimes forget about Vandenberg Space Force Base. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You don't see it, so you forget about it, because it's all covered in fog.
Yeah, oh goodness. And mind you, we've also had Ship 36 rolling out to Massey's and Starbase for its cryogenic proof testing, and hopefully we will also get the role of Ship 35, hopefully sooner than later, to finally conduct its static fire testing ahead of Starship Flight 9. So we kind of got used to having not a whole lot going on in April after a very busy March, but something tells me that we are going to be picking up the pace here for just about everything in the not too distant future. So
it's gonna be May.
It's oh no, he said the thing. he said the thing. Oh
I
gosh.
said the thing, of course.
You know, there's actually a clip that I have in my phone from I think it was a post Flight 8 stream that we did with EJ, Das, and Jack. And Jack said something similar to what you just said, Sawyer, and I cannot wait to post that clip. Come the last day of April, just to make Jack's day in life just that much harder, because we love him.
Of
but
course.
Yes, we are very busy here, but these are certainly good problems to have, because the realm of spaceflight is Everly. Is that even a word? Everly?
The Everly Brothers make good music, but
It's
I don't know.
true. But the spaceflight sector, especially here on the Space Coast, is rapidly expanding operations, and we are going to be seeing that ramp up in pace here. Hopefully by the end of this year, with hopefully a flight of Starship out of LC-39A, amongst others who are building pads here as well. So certainly worse problems to have, and I have a feeling that we are going to be kept very busy here over the next couple years and further. But before we get too far off track, D, would you mind telling us about the weather tonight and what may or may not be of concern?
Absolutely. So there are not many concerns tonight. So the 45th Weather Squadron, which of course does the weather predictions for all of these launches here on the East Coast, gives a 10% chance of violating weather constraints, with their concerns being the cumulus cloud rule and the anvil cloud rule. Now, looking around, there are no clouds out currently, so I think that is a really good look. And they also take a look at additional risk criteria for wind shear, boost recovery weather, and solar activity. All of those are low risks. So, I mean, it is just a beautiful evening tonight to have a launch. And so I'm really looking forward to this.
Absolutely. You know, D, I don't know about you, but normally by this time of year, when it comes to weather here in the state of Florida, normally we are well into the rainy season by this point. And what that means for those who aren't familiar is when the weather gets a lot warmer and humid here, as it tends to in these summer months here in Central and South Florida, literally every single afternoon, maybe one or 2 days out of the week being an exception, where we have rain and storms between 3 to 5 p.m. every single day. And the weather, I have to say, over the past month and a half, 2 months, when the weather should have been getting progressively worse in the afternoon, has really been fine. So I don't know if it feels like where our luck is running out, or like that something is just building up toward the end of the year, or in the summer. I don't know. I have a feeling that we're pushing our luck here with how good the weather's been. But what do you think? am I crazy for thinking that?
No, but I'm not going to say anything to jinx the wonderful weather we're having. And something else
Exactly.
worth considering is
Yes.
we see a lot of these launches happening at night. It's something we jokingly and sometimes a little bit less jokingly complain about, like, why so many night launches? But it's precisely because of those afternoon showers and the wind, because when the sun is out, we can expect more wind from it heating up the ground. And so in addition to reducing like disruptions for workforce, that sort of stuff, when they go for these night launches, it's far more likely to have still air, less likely to have rain, that daily precipitation that we come to expect. So they are just maximizing the odds weather-wise, sort of with their timing, it seems.
Yes, certainly. Okay, so before I get too far behind here on support, I'm going to hit some really quick, and then we can hit the timeline of events coming up. So first, I want to bring up some support that we had coming on pre-stream. Perry Perry's becoming a launch director member, which is an absolutely huge bit of support there. That is not a small feat, and we are greatly appreciative of that membership. And also, so did Michael Ralia, also becoming a launch director member as well. Larry Souders becoming a red team member, Chris Linton becoming a red team member. Let's get him up here. There we go. Seamaster Smooth also becoming a pad rep member, along with Henry Explorers and Francisco Pizarro becoming all pad rep members. Folks, just as a reminder, one of the best ways you can support us here is by becoming a member of our YouTube channel. Capcom membership and above gets you full Discord access in L2 to be talking to any of us here at NSF and a ton of other spaceflight nerds that love to talk about all things spaceflight and other topics as well, not just spaceflight. So feel free to have that in the back of your mind as the stream goes on and as others happen or come on, as that is one of the best ways to support us. So thank you very much to those who have currently signed up.
Yes,
Tony
and tell
Nagy-
Jack that he's wrong
Yeah.
on bagels.
Yes, he's very wrong on that. Just hideous everything bagel. Anyway, Tony Nagy also becoming a pad rep member. And let's see here. Turtle Sanctuary with a $10 super chat. Apologies, Sawyer. I haven't bought you any spare pun tokens in a while. Here's some for you. Oh no. That's just
Oh
enabling.
yes.
That's just enabling. That's enabling right there. We can't have that. We cannot
Oh,
have that.
I appreciate it.
And also to cap up support for now, Louis Rajano, forgive me if I mispronounce that, also becoming a Pad Rat member. Y'all are incredibly generous, and we could not be more grateful for your support. But also, folks, support here does not have to be monetary. You can also become great supporters of our channel just by liking our videos and subscribing to our YouTube channel. That goes a long way and certainly a lot farther than a lot of people may think. So we just want to say thank you very much for anyone who's watching along and hanging out with us, especially tonight, where we are sending off another Falcon 9 rocket, hopefully in just under 45 minutes. Okay, Mr. Sawyer Rosenstein. We are coming up rather quickly on a milestone or a timeline of events that are critical in the countdown to get us to launch. Would you mind going over some of those milestones?
Certainly, Mr. Max Evans. So, coming up in just a couple minutes, they should begin the polling of whether they are go or no go for propellant load for the evening. Again, that is done electronically. Even if we did have access to listen to it, we wouldn't hear anything. But assuming that everyone gives that green light on their consoles, then the launch director will give the go for prop load at T-minus 38 minutes. And then at T-minus 35 minutes is when the propellant loading begins, starting with the big first stage booster, Mr. Sooty over there, with the liquid oxygen and rocket propellant 1 being loaded into stage 1. Meanwhile, that RP1, which is a refined form of kerosene, will go into the second stage, which is the much cleaner, whiter portion there on the top of the booster. That will begin loading with just the RP1. That goes till about 20 minutes and 20 seconds before launch. We'll know that because of the famous 20-minute, 20-second vent. And then after those lines are chilled down, 4 minutes later, the LOX load will begin on stage 2.
And that is all coming up rather quickly. As you said, that first milestone is at T-minus 38 minutes, and we are currently just at T-minus 43 minutes and counting. The countdown, once we have visual confirmation of prop load, seems to go rather quickly, and like alarmingly so sometimes, because like an hour of time seems like you have a decent amount of buffer to do what you need to do, especially if you're on site, to either prep cameras, go over some gear, making sure the stream is going well, and then all of a sudden, bam, you have 10 minutes left, and it's like, oh my god, okay, we have like no time to get ready, like it's here. But yeah,
It's so true. It's the fastest 40 minutes
yes.
you'll ever have.
It really is, and it goes by even faster for the bigger missions like Crew or Falcon Heavy. Like that, the time just erodes away at a remarkable pace. So actually, Sawyer, before we move on, I want to pick your brain a little bit because, as we said earlier, tonight's booster B1077, if it launches tonight, would be the first. It would be the 10th booster to reach the milestone of 20 flights. If you recall back a time even 2 to 3 years ago, when boosters were just pushing beyond 10 flights, everyone was thinking that anything beyond 10 was just pushing the ragged edge, and that Falcon 9 might pop at any point after that. And as you can see now, we have had boosters that have flown 27 times and just under that as well. And with this being the 20th flight, there are milestones after the 10th flight and 20th flight. SpaceX tends to, I don't want to say discontinue the booster because that's obviously not accurate, but they tend to take it out of action for a period of time to go through some inspections and make sure that it is good for the next realm or the next round of 10 flights. What exactly do those inspections consist of, and what exactly is SpaceX looking for elsewhere to make sure that these boosters are safe for flight?
Absolutely. So, I mean, it is crazy going all the way back to, I believe it was 2021 was when we kind of first saw boosters enter that 10 flight realm. And
Yep.
obviously, since then, as you pointed out, this will become the 10th booster to reach 20 flights. So what they do is, of course, they're checking all of the interiors. They're checking the engines to make sure that those are all still functioning as they're supposed to do. They're taking a look at all the landing gear. They have crush cores inside of them that if they land too hard, they can go in and replace them if needed. They also go ahead and basically take a look at all the inner plumbing, the workings inside, make sure all is functioning as it is. And yeah, because a lot of these things, they're getting hammered 10, 20 times now. So you want to make sure that everything is still functioning. They, of course, do some quicker inspections for just regular flights. But like you pointed out, for those kind of major milestones, they'll take them out, look through everything. If they need to replace engines, they can replace engines. If they need to replace anything else, they can do that. And it's amazing, though, at this point, even still with all of that, we've seen boosters that have turned around in 2 weeks.
Yes, and actually, I think the record right now is 9 days, but that record is held by those pesky people over at Vandenberg, not here.
Ew.
Is that why they're the best coast?
That is absolutely a false statement. That is just not. That is not appropriate, T. That is not. No.
Yeah. But yeah, so when we talk about the downtime to review it and everything and take a look at it, yeah, we're talking at most a month. That's at most. Most of them now are like 10, 12, 14 days.
Yeah, and it's worth noting as well that these so-called downtimes for boosters at these milestones, I think, as Alex is telling us in the back channel, are measured in single-digit weeks, which is honestly pretty remarkable considering what they have to do and how much, I guess, surface area and fine details they have to look over, like the welds, all of the plumbing, every single engine and every single component inside. There are everything. It gets a complete rethink. Think about it like the space shuttle going back into the OPF, or the orbiter processing facility, for a complete rehaul and getting ready for its refurb before its next flight. Like, that's basically what this is. I think I've actually heard a few SpaceXers refer to Hangar X, which is where the Falcon 9 first stages go, as Jiffy Lube, because they get their various services done there, and then they're shoved back out and ready to fly. So I think Jiffy Lube is a very fun way to refer to Hangar X. But
yeah, but shuttle, we're talking like minimum for the early days when they were really pushing hard, 3 to 4 months for turnaround for each orbiter, and then obviously as the program went on and they had issues in the program that forced them to slow things down a bit, which was the right call. You're talking 6 to 8 months sometimes.
Yeah, but thankfully we are not at that cadence anymore, and SpaceX has honestly an abundance of Falcon 9 first stage boosters to use for varying purposes, because as the aging Falcon 9 fleet gets further and further in the line of in terms of flight time, depending on how many flights they have, that can, I guess, disqualify them from some payloads. Like NASA, for instance, requires or asks that any booster that flies any of their astronauts fly 5 times or less before the booster moves on, I guess, for other payloads. We have seen we have seen real payloads. I think. Oh gosh, Sawyer, do you remember there was a mission that launched? I think it was second half of last year. I know that's a while ago now, but it was, I think, a 25th flight or a 26th. No, I'm sorry, 24th flight or a 25th flight, and that was a real payload. Like that. Not to say Starlink missions aren't real payloads, but they're paying customers who are paying to ride along on Falcon 9 to orbit. Oh gosh, what was it?
Oh geez.
Was it? I think it was Hera, wasn't it? Was it Hera?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember.
Alex, help us out. Alex, help us out. Here we go. So KoreaSat 6A on B1060E on words. KoreaSat 6A on B1067 on its 23rd flight. Hera was on 1061 on its 23rd flight as well. Yeah, I think that's actually the current record for the number of flights for a paying customer payload and not just a Starlink mission. So, but Falcon 9, as we have seen over the past 2 or 3 years, as they have flown it significantly, has proven to be a very robust launch vehicle, and its reuse is staggering, especially compared to where rockets were anywhere from 10, 15 years ago. So a lot of progress being had.
Yeah, I mean, there's been ones like, I think there was a Sirius SXM9, I think was on a nearly 20th flight. There's a couple of other ones that, been 15 to 20 flights. I think one of the transporters was on an older booster too. So
I think that one. So that one launched in early 2023, and that was its 20th flight. I remember that one very well. I was there for that one.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So yes, it's becoming less rare to see full paying customer payloads on Falcon 9 boosters that have flown more than 15 times, which is lovely to see because that just proves how robust and reliable Falcon 9 has proven to be over its lifespan, actually starting in 2018 with the Block 5 variant, which is what we are using now and what SpaceX will be using until pretty much they want to retire Falcon 9, because Block 5 was made to be the final iteration of Falcon 9.
Yes.
That being said,
Seriously impressive.
wow. Oh gosh. Okay, that was reaching. Like that you were reaching for that one, like hard, Sawyer.
Yeah, I didn't have to extend my elbow that far. It wasn't that much of a reach.
Oh gosh. Well, anyway. Let's hit some questions, shall we?
Sure. Hey, someone gave those pun tokens. I gotta use them.
Gosh. Not tonight, like not all at once. Okay, question here from Braidwood 1981 at NASASpaceflight. What is the trajectory tonight? You used to put it in your description. I live in North Carolina and want to keep an eye out on when the second stage is visible. Braidwood, I hate to break your heart, but Falcon 9 is flying southeast tonight, which is away from North Carolina, and it will be more visible on the southern half of Florida. You would see missions that are flying northeast, like crew missions or anything going to the ISS or any other payload that's heading northeast, should the lighting conditions deem themselves favorable for actually so you can see it from so far away, like Kuiper. Exactly. And as you can see on your screen now, these are all of the keep out zones and the NOTAMs posted to keep clear, because this is where I can't word right now. These are the hazardous operating areas from where the first stage of Falcon 9 will be operating and hopefully launching and landing here in just over 33 minutes time. And by this point, it's worth noting that we should be well into prop load right now, and we should be on frost watch for the next 2 or 3 minutes. Just above the tree line, normally the first visual we have of that prop load is underway is we see a little bit of frost forming on the bottom of the liquid oxygen tank on the first stage, which, if you follow that white line on the right-hand side of the booster, where there's another one that shoots left right above the shrubs. And that is the weld for the bottom of the liquid oxygen tank. And that is where we typically see frost first forming. So, actually, you know what? Those marks actually... No, I don't think yet. D, what do you think? Do you see frost yet, or not really?
My eyes might be deceiving me a little bit. It certainly is starting to look like it. I think we'll have a very clear answer in another minute or so.
Well, hopefully. Because if we don't see frost, we know that they're not in prop load, and that means they have either... I'm not going to say the word. They have either not opted to launch tonight, or they are just pushing farther into the window, which, of course, actually, we haven't talked about it yet, actually. The launch window tonight opens technically at 10:04 p.m. Eastern Time and goes for 4 hours until 2:04 a.m. Eastern Time, technically tomorrow morning. So it's a launch window of 4 hours. Hopefully they won't need... What? Go ahead.
I was going to say, no, what I look for is that kind of waving in the air, which I do see it now as the frost line is growing. We have frost for sure.
We have frost visible on the LOX tank on Falcon 9's first stage, which means we are now into prop load, and they are now committed to that 10:08 p.m. T0 now, and they cannot, if they do have to abort for whatever reason and offload propellant, they do not have the time to recycle all of the ground systems and the vehicle systems to target a further T0 tonight. So they are now committed, which means hopefully it's not going to be too late of a night for us now. Okie dokie, some more questions, shall we?
Let's do it.
From Mike C. at NASASpaceflight. Parks in Titusville still the best places to watch launches? Tomorrow. Tomorrow. So depending on what pad you want to prioritize, I mean, thankfully, Pad 41 and Pad 39A are in very close proximity to each other. And so viewing should be great for both pads depending on where you go. I would personally recommend anywhere in North Titusville along the coast and or on the very top of the Max Brewer Bridge, because that gives you a view well off the ground and you can see Pad 41 and 39A very well. Anywhere along the coast, though, heading down through Port St. John and into Cocoa, and anywhere along 528 heading into Cape Canaveral and Cocoa Beach is also a great choice. You cannot go wrong with that. But we also have a video talking about good viewing locations for launches, depending on what pad you are looking at on our YouTube channel. I'm not sure if Carson can link it in the description or the chat or anything. But we do have that resource there, so please feel free to check that out as well. But anywhere in northern Titusville, I think, is a great spot.
Yep, and the nice thing about tomorrow is that with the two launches being so close together, one is going northeast, one is going southeast. So whether you end up north of the pad or south of the pad, you will absolutely have a good view of one of them going overhead and the other going away from you.
Absolutely.
Jetty Park is a good option as well if you don't mind not seeing the launch pads. If you want to be able to see both pads, you also have Cars Park, keeping in mind that it does close at a certain point and that one does cost money. But I think Max Brewer Bridge is also a really good spot for this one.
I would agree. I would agree with that as well. Let's hit some support really quick. Elizabeth Hopner, a name that we see here very often, gifting 5 Red Team memberships to 5 very lucky viewers. Elizabeth, thank you very much for that support. We love seeing your name come up, and that is incredibly generous. So thank you very much. And Jose Javier becoming a Pad Rat member. Friggin-tastic. Jose, thank you very much. That is awesome. And pointing out in the back channel, everyone's saying I came close to saying the S word. I did not. I didn't even say the S in this. Like, I didn't even say that. I didn't say that.
Yeah,
I stopped
Jack
myself
got
before I
closer
said it.
during the first Kuiper attempt than you did on this attempt.
100% agree, and that was his fault. To be fair, like we that opinion is not changing. That is still his fault entirely. Okay. Kevin Michael Reed. I wonder who this guy is. At NASASpaceflight, what happened to Booster 1026? Did it suffer the same fate of the most beautiful ship 26? I don't. 1026. What? Oh God, what happened to that one?
First of all, I would like to say, rip ship 26.
Yes. A firm. Good call out. Hats off. Tap. Someone play taps. No? Nobody? Okay.
No.
In terms of what happened to B1026, Kevin also providing the information on that question. So it looks like 1026 only flew once, and that was the JCSat 16 mission from Slick 40, way back in August of 2016. Golly, dude, that was almost 10 years ago. Oh no. That is
which
so...
booster that's on display now at Gateway? It's a 1020 something, I think. Or is that the one? I feel like 1026 is on display somewhere.
Forgive me. Is... Oh gosh. That's the one... Forgive me. Is Gateway in Colorado?
I think 1026 may be in Colorado. I think 1023 is at Gateway or one of the side cores. I'm trying to remember. No, Alex says that 1026 was scrapped, and 1023.
1023 is one at Gateway. Okay.
And that's the Gateway exhibit at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex.
Oh, I'm so stupid. I knew that. And 1023 is a Falcon Heavy side core that was used on the inaugural launch of Falcon Heavy way back in earlier 2018, which is... And even then, I think it was still... Wasn't that booster also a flown booster before then? Like, it wasn't a brand new Falcon booster core stage.
I know those were still the Block 4. That was the only Block 4 variant.
Correct.
Falcon Heavy.
Correct. Which is really weird to think about because they moved to Block 5 like right away.
Yeah.
They had one Block 4 Falcon Heavy, which honestly may have been the prettiest because it was all white. Like about as white as a rocket can get.
So slick.
Absolutely gorgeous. And actually, yes, so 1023 flew TICOM 8 before it became a Falcon Heavy sidecore. Yes. So that did happen. And that is also on display over at the, as we have talked about before, the Gateway exhibit over at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex, right over your head. So it is a great place to get up close and personal with a piece of flown history.
Unlike 26, which is not flown and not historic.
What do you mean not historic? It had many successful tests that no other ship could perform.
Yeah, because it was never meant to fly.
You what? What now? You said what?
Well, I thought D said something. No, I said because it was never meant to fly.
I will say, I saw a glorious static fire from ship 26 when I did not see IFT-4.
Yes, that did not happen. And you actually made a great point in the back channel of what will happen to Booster 26. D, what do you think will happen to Booster 26?
There's no way that it can live up to Ship 26.
Nothing can, right?
Nothing can.
Nothing
But
can.
I'm sure it is destined for greatness, or it will follow the tradition of being scrapped. One of the two.
Jeez.
Oh goodness gracious. Oh me oh my. Okay. Nibbles gifting 5 red team memberships as well. Holy crap. Nibbles, that is incredibly generous. Thank you so much. Love to see it. Ooh. Sawyer, this is a really good question. So let's tackle this one from Robbie Rob. At NASASpaceflight, apart from the nozzle, what are the difference between the sea level Merlins and the MVACs? Is it similar for other engines that feature sea level and vacuum optimized variants?
Ooh, that is a really good question. So you've got as you mentioned, the Merlin 1Ds, which are the main ones, and then the Merlin vacuum engines. So yes, as you've heard, it is the vacuum optimized versions. The other one, it is a much wider nozzle, much wider engine bell, but it follows a lot of the same kind of concepts in terms of what's needed to light it with the T-tab, with the chilling and all of that. I know there's I'm sure there's some mini technical difference. Alex saying MVAC has integrated GG exhaust in the nozzle like F1.
Gas generator. GG.
Yes, GG's. But otherwise, it's again, it's a lot wider. It's a little stubbier in a way compared to the main one, but not like the full-on stubby upper stages. But yeah, otherwise, it flows similarly to the Merlin 1D.
It does. Honestly, there really isn't much. There aren't much differences, and I think that's kind of the point of Merlin is that it's a very simple engine to manufacture and keep running. That is why SpaceX opted to utilize the open cycle gas generator system, because it is one of the most simple systems to I can't word. Goodness gracious. An open cycle gas generator system is a much simpler system to design compared to either a closed cycle, which is what the RS-25 runs on, or a full flow stage combustion cycle, which is what is powering the Raptors. And the Raptors currently are one of, if not the most sophisticated engines currently in use. Currently utilizing the Raptor 2s on flight hardware, but we know that SpaceX is currently well underway into development and production of Raptor 3, which at least from the outside it appears much simpler in design compared to Raptor 2 and certainly Raptor 1 with its bag of snakes plumbing all around it, around the power head. But yes, that's kind of the point, because Merlins are just super simple, and that is what you need for a rocket that is designed to be reused many times. And it's also one of the least expensive engines to build as well. So, and it isn't too often that we actually hear about an engine swap, for example, due to a failure on either Falcon 9's first stage or stage 2 in flight. Of course, we had that last year, unfortunately, but SpaceX has found a way to navigate around the issue and keep Falcon 9 flying. But Merlin, generally speaking, and especially in this Merlin 1D variant, has proven to be a very reliable engine. Bideford, another name that we see coming around very often, also gifting 5 Red Team memberships to 5 lucky viewers. Bideford, you're the best. Thank you so much. It's great seeing you around. Ooh, Sawyer. So we are currently, looking back at the countdown clock, we are currently at T-minus 21 minutes and 21 seconds. What are we not that far away from, Sawyer? It's coming up quick.
Oh, yes. Also, I love the 2121. I like those nice round or fun numbers, as you can kind of tell based off of the love of this being the 250th Starlink satellite launch. This also being the 20th flight for this booster, the 10th booster to reach 20 flights. All of those fun numbers, and the 50th flight for SpaceX of the year. What they all have in common is coming up in about 30 seconds. That is the T-minus 20-minute 20-second vent. So basically, as they finish wrapping up propellant load of the RP-1 on stage 2. They then need to condition the lines to be ready for the supercooled liquid oxygen that will have to be flowed through them and loaded into stage 2. So, to do that, they will run those cold gases through it, chill it down, and as a result, you will see what looks like a vent. And we call it here the best vent. And that
And
should
there it
last for
is.
about 4 minutes. And once that's done, they will begin loading liquid oxygen into stage 2.
The T-minus 20-minute, 20-second vent for the 10th, 20th flight booster. 2020.
Hey, oh, I like it.
Hey! I'm surprised you didn't catch that one. I was waiting for you to say it, to be honest. I was just waiting for you to say it.
2020 and 2025.
2025? Oh, well, yeah, that is I'm slow. Never mind. Oh, goodness gracious.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to the future. I thought it was 2024 still. It's not. Spoiler alert, for anyone wondering. Ooh, a really good question from It's Palisade. NASA spaceflight, why are the grid fins on Super Heavy always out even during ascent, while the grid fins on Falcon 9 only open on reentry? Great question. So essentially, the grid fins on Falcon 9 are made of titanium, and their mechanism is made so that they are folded down during the ascent portion of flight to minimize drag on ascent through the thicker parts of the atmosphere. For a booster or for a rocket as thin margin for, how do I word this? For a rocket that has such fine margins often as Falcon 9 does, especially for these heavier Starlink flights when they have 27, 28 Starlink V2 minis inside the fairings, you need every bit of performance you can get. And because SpaceX wants to keep that margin of fuel in to land the booster, excuse me, it's best to have as little drag on the outside of the rocket as possible. Now, when it comes to Super Heavy, the mechanisms that would be needed to fold the grid fins up and down, I think would be too complex for what SpaceX wants to do with the Super Heavy booster. And those grid fins also are much larger than what are on Falcon 9 right now. I believe they're still made of like a very thick, very robust alloy of steel. And that also has to do because they weigh a ton, and it takes a lot of force to move them when they are needed. And also, they are not spaced at 90-degree increments like they are in Falcon 9. They are placed in sets of 2, and I think they are about 30. Oh gosh, I think they're spaced out on either side around 30 something degrees apart. I could be wrong. Sawyer, please help out if you can. But yeah, so it would just be it would add a lot more complexity to the systems on board Falcon on Super Heavy than what SpaceX wants to do in order to make the Super Heavy booster rapidly reusable and reusable to a large extent. So as Elon has always said, the best part is no part, and that really just is not needed. SpaceX engineers at least deemed for the ascent portion of flight on Starship.
Exactly. And yes, you are right. It's the two groups, one at 60 degrees and then 120 degrees, and 60 degrees,
Yes.
120 degrees. So you've got that. And also worth noting that those are used during additional portions of the flight for Super Heavy, since it's still kind of in the atmosphere there. It's used to help with the flipping over to do the flip back right after hot staging, where you kind of see it turn around like that. So
yes,
that's still in thick enough atmosphere, whereas Falcon 9, they deploy them on the way down, because on the way up, there's really no use for them at any point.
Correct. Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. Actually, if you pay attention to any onboard footage, like right at or right before hot staging, you will see, depending on what camera SpaceX is showing, you will see one of the grid fins on Super Heavy tilt so that it interacts with the exhaust gases coming through the hot staging ring to interact with it and help push the booster away and aid in its reorientation for its boost back burns, which is really fascinating. I don't think anyone really picked up on that until I think flight. Oh God, I think it was flight 3 or flight 4 is when we finally noticed that, which is a really cool thing that SpaceX does. Go ahead, Sawyer.
No, I was gonna say we didn't get hot staging till what was it?
Flight
2, and then
flight 2. Yep.
Flight 3 we knew to actually look for it, but yeah.
Yeah. Right. But really great question there. That's actually a really good point to make, because the design philosophies behind Falcon and Starship are really different. Because Falcon 9 at this point is a a well-appointed and well-proven launch vehicle, and Starship, of course, is still in its infancy, and there is a long way to go before SpaceX can get Starship where they want it before it enters operation, hopefully in the not-too-distant future. Ooh, another great question from Misty at NASASpaceflight. Could we ever see SpaceX make a crewed launch site at Vandy? Ooh, well,
You was right.
you what?
You was right.
I didn't say ew. I said ooh, because I was pondering the possibilities. At the moment, it doesn't look like it's feasible because SpaceX already has 2 operational launch facilities here in Florida that can launch crew, i.e. Slick 40 and LC-39A. And they have flown crew off of both. And the first crew to fly from Slick 40, which was also the first crew to fly from Slick 40 in general, and not just for SpaceX, was Crew 9 in September of last year. And that to this point, that is the only crewed mission to have flown from that pad, but it's at least nice to know that Slick 40 can support astronauts. And so, back to the point of the question, they have 2 pads that have crew capability. And with Starship hopefully coming online at LC-39A by the end of this year, hopefully, if anything were to go wrong, they have Slick 40 to go to as a backup. Now, you could counter that argument to saying, hey, what if they need to launch astronauts on a polar trajectory? Well, they've already done that from LC-39A, no less, recently with the From 2 mission, where that crew of 4 launched into a polar trajectory, and they were the first to do so. So, oh gosh, adding a crew tower to Slick 4, I think, would just be... There really wouldn't be much purpose for it, Sawyer. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they were originally going to launch shuttle for polar trajectories out of the West Coast, out of Vandenberg.
Correct.
It's like 6. Discovery was actually going to be the orbiter that would be stationed out there, but then given the special composite material they would have needed for the solid rocket boosters out of there and the issues after STS-51L Challenger, they scrapped that idea entirely. And now that we have the Southern Polar Launch Corridor right here in Florida, I feel like it's probably going to primarily be East Coast for Starship launches, especially ones with crew.
Yeah, I mean, the more astronauts to fly, the better. But at this point, I think SpaceX has bigger ambitions with getting the Starship program operational with crew, hopefully in the next maybe 4 to 5 years, hopefully. And then they obviously have two pads capable of flying crew at the moment. So it doesn't seem like there's a good case for it. But honestly, you never know. But I highly doubt it, to be honest. D, I want to check back in with you. It looks like you have a variety of cameras out with you tonight over on the press lawn. I can kind of see your laptop light from here on top of the hut. Would you mind going through what you're running?
Yeah, so the view that you're looking at right now is just a bit of a fun behind-the-scenes camera that gives you a look. That's actually about 20 feet behind me, maybe not quite that much. And so we can, of course, see the rocket on the pad here. And then next up, I've got a slightly wider, or a slightly more zoomed-in view. Provide a bit of context, and that'll be stationary during liftoff. And then lastly, over on to the left of that, we have the tracking camera. And so that one I will be operating throughout flight, following the rocket. And so it's not every once in a while I'll throw a teleconverter on there, and that just basically doubles the zoom of the image. I didn't do that today, so hopefully we can follow the second stage, see a lot of the detail from that plume long into flight. But yeah, so we've got a decent little bit of setup out here for this wonderful night, and I'm really looking forward to this.
Absolutely, and as are we. So currently I said it again. Goodness gracious, we are not holding. The count currently continuing at T-minus 11 minutes and 14 seconds. D, while we have you, let's do one more quick check-in with the weather. How is it looking out here?
I honestly can't think of better weather for a launch right now. The air is almost perfectly still, which does mean those mosquitoes are out, but that is easily dealt with. And no clouds in the sky. So it is just wonderful, wonderful weather.
Absolutely. It is an absolutely gorgeous night here, and hopefully those who are around us for miles around, either north of here in New Smyrna or south of here, going all the way down to perhaps Fort Lauderdale, excuse me, or those west of us in, say, Tampa or the Clearwater area. Hopefully they will also have a view of launch tonight should weather be behaving itself. But currently moving on, T-minus 10 minutes and 16 seconds. So let's go through one more question really quickly before we hit something else. Oval is asking, is it a mission number or is it an internal serial number? I assume that they are referring to the 1223 nomenclature. Sawyer, I know it's very confusing, but why exactly are these missions named the way they are?
Yes. So the first one that you see there is the group number. So this is a Group 12 launch. Group 12 tend to go into the same type of orbit, the same kind of area on launch. These go towards the southeast. And then the number afterwards is the number within that group. So this is the 23rd scheduled flight. Where it ends up in the schedule can change quite often. So this doesn't mean that this is the actual 23rd flight in Group 12. It just means that this was given the designation of the 23rd, and this is now when it happens to be launching.
Very good. Taking a look out at this camera, you can see that there are 4 distinct towers. Actually, there are 5 if you look very closely, but that actually is a good segue into what we have cooking up for everybody right now in terms of merch over at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. 4 towers merch is a question that we get an awful lot in terms of whether it be sarcastic or whether it be real. About the 4 towers, especially at Slick 40, because they are ever so prevalent in the imagery. But as you can see, we have great looking merch around the question and the point of 4 towers over at Slick 40. So in multiple colors, multiple sizes, it looks absolutely great. And honestly, I might just grab one myself before stream's over. What?
And it's got a pun on it.
Does it? I can't read it. The screen's too small. What does it say?
The pun is they're talking about us again, and then the other tower goes, shocking.
Wow.
You sure you still want to buy it, Max?
You may have spoiled it for me, Sawyer.
I now need to buy 3 of them.
Yes, but that shirt does look great, and there are a number of others also as well at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. A whole bunch of merch that we have going on, especially with our recently released new era of human spaceflight line. So a lot of good stuff to check out, and that is one of the great ways to support us and keep us coming back here, because these missions are a lot to cover, and it takes a lot of resources to cover them, but it's always a joy whenever we are able to bring this information out to the general public and those who are willing to hang out with us. So always a pleasure. Please feel free to give it a look. And it seemed like a second ago that we were at T-minus 10 minutes. We were already almost at the T-minus 7-minute marker. That's what we were talking about earlier in the stream, how time just seems to melt away once you're past a certain point in the countdown, especially after the T-minus 20-minute vent. We are getting awfully close here, folks, and Falcon 9 is looking awfully venty and awfully frosty as they are nearing the completion of prop load for Falcon 9. Sawyer, in these last 7 minutes, what exactly is going to be happening and what should we keep our eyes out for?
Sure, so right now they will be starting to chill down those 9 Merlin 1D engines at the base of the rocket, and that engine chill down is basically conditioning them for what they're about to experience with flight, starting to run those super cool propellants through them so that there's no thermal shock and that the engines don't crack or anything once you then ignite them and start running fire through those engine bells. Then after that, at about 4.5 minutes, they will retract the strongback or the transporter erector, the TE, which is hard to see now that they put up that crew tower at 40, but it is directly behind that tower there. It's another metallic structure that's basically leaned up against the vehicle. That goes back 1.8 degrees, and then once it actually lifts off, it will throw all the way back, but that's providing data lines, power, air conditioning, essentially, all the thermals for the payloads. That will then do that. Then we should have fueling wrapping up at 3.5 and 2.5 minutes, respectively, for the different stages. And then hopefully at 1 minute, they pressurize those tanks. The flight computers take control. We get the go at T-minus 45 seconds for launch. and we see the Rainbird start and the engines ignite at T-minus 3 seconds.
And that is all coming up rather quickly. And because it's all happening rather quickly, D, I believe it is time to send you off and get ready to be on those cameras and track Falcon 9 as it ascends into the sky.
It sure is. I'm really looking forward to this launch tonight, and I will see you all on the other side.
See you on the other side. Enjoy the launch.
You too.
All right, for those of you who are just now joining us, welcome. We are NSF, and we are broadcasting the Starlink 12-23 mission out of Slick 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Base tonight, which will be lifting off hopefully in just over 5 minutes' time. Prop load is nearly complete. Goodness gracious, excuse me. And Falcon 9 will be heading off on a southeastern trajectory tonight should they have a nominal liftoff, and they will, in the first stage, will be heading down to hopefully be recovered on the drone ship. Just read the instructions, stationed just north of the Bahamas. So it is, honestly, as Dee was saying earlier, we could not ask for any better weather. So hopefully those of you who are around the Cape and around areas, any local areas to the Space Coast, hopefully you can take a peek out to your eastern skies and watch Falcon 9 ascending in just a few minutes' time. It's coming up rather quickly. But before we get to that point, I want to hit one more question from River Dave. How does the size of Stubby, I assume you were talking about the MVAC Stubby nozzle, compared to sea level Merlins? Ooh,
That
you
would be the
have SpaceX
SpaceX
audio.
call. Yep.
It's happening. It's happening fast. So, in terms of the size of MVAC Stubby compared to sea level Merlins, we haven't exactly seen a side-by-side, but we know how big the MVAC nozzle is, and we can make sort of a visual judgment as to where how do I word this? Where they don't add the niobium nozzle extension, which you see on a majority of Falcon 9 upper stages. I would say they're pretty similar in size, because the extension just past the throat before they start introducing the gas generator exhaust into the nozzle. It seems like they're roughly the same size. Obviously, their performance isn't really that comparable, given the different conditions where they are made to fly and fire. But I want to say they're very similar in size, but obviously they have much different purposes, and you will never see an MVAC nozzle on a Falcon 9 first stage, at least hopefully.
Yeah, I still believe it's about the 3 foot or 1 meter ish diameter. Or sorry, no, that's the sea level I'm thinking of. The 3 meter diameter for the Merlin vacuum engine regular. So maybe it's a little bit wider than that, but otherwise, as mentioned, just stubby. But we're not expecting that on this mission, because this is carrying 23 of the Starlink satellites, of which we have a mix, once again, of the V2 mini satellites, of which there are 10 and 13, with the direct-to-cell capability on board that includes the LTE antennas that will be used to allow internet access via phones.
Indeed. Even though these Starlink missions have become very routine, at least it looks that way to us on the outside, but we can assure you that spaceflight is never routine. It requires immense precision and immense confidence from those who are behind. Oop, there you go. You can hear stage 1. LOX load is complete.
So
Spaceflight is not routine. Yes. Spaceflight is not routine, and we have seen that especially over the last 2 Starship flights following the previous 3 before that seemed to go rather well. Falcon 9, of course, has had its troubles in the last couple of years as well, with that unfortunate failure of the MVAC engine summer of last year. But of course, SpaceX has fixed that issue, and they are going to continue to fly. And as we are seeing, they're going to fly another, hopefully, in just over 90 seconds from now. That vent you are seeing from the transporter erector now is signaling essentially they have wrapped up prop load on Falcon 9's upper stage. So, which is a really great sign. Prop load should be complete on Falcon 9 now, completely to this point, and they should be now be. There we go. They are pressing the tanks for flight. And we will get the call out for 1 minute and just about 5 seconds from now, and hopefully we will hear Falcon 9 is in startup.
Yes, so it's a slight delay from the SpaceX feed to what we actually provide you with less delay, so you may hear it on a slight delay. And like you said, it's never normal. This is the 250th Starlink dedicated launch.
Just for Starlinks, yes, exactly. And it's around it's in the this mission is in the 400s. There we go. Falcon 9 is indeed in startup. We should be hearing go for launch from the launch director in just a few seconds as well. Oh, it's happening. Sir, it's happening.
It's happening.
It's happening, baby. We're on
Launch
site
director,
for it.
Go for launch.
There we go. We are go for launch. T-minus 28 seconds and counting. It is such a pretty night. This is going to be absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, and listen for it too. Again, the sound will come on a bit of a delay because of where the cameras are located in relation to the pad. But you
Yes.
should still get great audio tonight.
Yep, and because Slick 40, Slick 40 is about 4 miles from the pad, so it will take a minute. But here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Should have ignition, and we have liftoff. Go Falcon, go Starlink. Stay tuned for the audio as it is incoming. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower. If you can hear me over the rumble, we are just over 1 minute into flight. Falcon 9 should be supersonic at this point and rapidly approaching max Q.
That is maximum aerodynamic pressure against the vehicle as it works its way uphill, by the way.
That is such a pretty sight. I'm having to look up from the monitors in front of me, just watching it with my eyes, which is a rarity nowadays because that doesn't happen very often.
I know, it is so true. When you're there covering all of these, you
Yes.
have to stop and make sure you take a couple seconds to look away from the viewfinder. And if you're watching this in person, please make sure you do that.
Absolutely. And as Falcon 9 gets higher and higher into the atmosphere and above the atmosphere, you can see the characteristics of the exhaust changing in shape and in color as there becomes less as the ambient pressure around the engines on the first stage becomes lower and lower. The exhaust will grow in shape and change in brightness and size and color, as you will see on your screen, going from orange to red and now to blue. Oh my gosh, it is so pretty.
Exactly. Should be coming up soon. Oh, look at the coloring on that.
Should be coming up on Miko in just a few seconds. We have Miko on the first stage. You can see it with my eyes. We have engine ignition on the MVAC. So good stage separation. Fantastic.
And the replay because of the slight delay from SpaceX's feed.
Yes. You can see the lights on the east coast of Florida there you could before the MVAC lit itself. The lights on the east coast of Florida down below and on the Space Coast in particular. That is gorgeous.
I should have flicked my lights on and off to see if I could see it.
Great view here from Dee's camera as you can see and there we go.
Oh, the fairings.
There go the fairings. What you're looking at right now is the exhaust characteristics from the single MVAC firing on Falcon 9's upper stage right now, and because it is firing in much lower atmospheric conditions, if not in near vacuum at this point, and with that nozzle extension, that big niobium nozzle extension, the exhaust is behaving much differently than it would otherwise, and it is resulting in a spectacular visual. Dee's camera is always great at picking up the detail and the color and the brightness. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and while there are the stars moving in the background, there's a couple of tiny little dots right on the edge of the plume there. That'll be the fairing halves kind of moving out of their way. And again, the thinner atmosphere, basically, as it goes to space, you can essentially see how it goes extremely wide. And while you may not always see this dramatic of the color with the naked eye when you see a launch, the camera can really bring out those details.
Absolutely. At this point in flight, Falcon 9's first stage should be continuing upwards in its trajectory before it hits its apogee in flight and begins to make its way back down into Earth's atmosphere. And by this point, it should have extended all 4 of its grid fins in preparation for atmospheric entry. But before it does that, it will ignite 3 of its 9 Merlin 1D engines in what's called a re-entry burn to slow the first stage booster down sufficiently so that the thermal and oh goodness gracious, the loads that the first stage will encounter and experience in the atmosphere will not be such to break the vehicle apart, which is what the entry burn slows it down enough to do that.
Yep, slows it down and then also creates kind of a wall of fire around it
Yes.
to act as a heat shield in a way without having to add an additional heat shield to the vehicle.
Yes, and the ignition of the engines will start with the single center engine, and then will continue with 2 of the outer engines right next to it, and then vice versa on shutdown of the 2 outers, and then the innermost engine. And that actually is where a majority of the soot on Falcon 9 first stages comes from, is that entry burn, because you have 3 Merlins firing at once, and all of that soot, because RP1 is a carbon-based fuel, builds up and goes right onto the tank structure of Falcon 9. So that's why Falcon 9s get sooty, if you ever were wondering.
Yep, as it fights fire with fire. And no, they do not clean the soot off of boosters. They only did that once, and that was with the first one, which is currently in Hawthorne, and they regretted
Yes.
it instantly.
You can see a little bit of flashing there from the base of Falcon 9's first stage, and some puffing there. That is normal. That is Falcon 9 using its RCS, or reaction control thrusters, to orient itself correctly for engine ignition and atmospheric re-entry.
Yep, little puffs of cold gas, so they're called cold gas jet thrusters.
Stage 1 STFTS is safe. So it is inbound right. Here we go. Oh. And we have ignition of a single engine for the entry burn, and up to 3 engines. You can see the engine plume changing shape.
Yep, once it makes that sort of like rectangular line type shape, you know that they've got 3 of them running instead of just 1.
Correct. And you will see that plume change again once they shut down the outer engines and go to the singular. And then obviously when the engine shuts down completely, you'll see nothing. Single, there we go. And engine shut down. Now at this point, you might see some plasma building up on the grid fins of Falcon 9's, like right there. There you go.
Stage 2.
Look at that. That is plasma building up on the surface of the grid fins as Falcon 9 approaches into the atmosphere at very, very high speeds. That is all normal. Every single vehicle experiences that from either orbit or near orbital velocity, or just very high speeds.
Yep, and already you can see how quickly in the bottom left that speed is bleeding off now.
Absolutely. And that altitude is dropping off like crazy.
Yep, already 11 kilometers off the deck and less than a minute away from touching down.
That's one of the things as well. Like when you're here on the ground and you see entry burn, it's like right over your head. And then in what seems like no time at all, the Falcon 9 first stage landing burn is like right over the horizon. And it covers an immense amount of ground in that time. Should be approaching landing burn, in just a few seconds now. And that will be a single engine landing burn aboard to get on board of Falcon 9's SpaceX's drone ship. Just read the instructions.
Yep, this will
Any
be just
second
to the
now.
northeast of the Bahamas.
Yes. I see a light in the corner. There we go. Engine ignition. I think that was the drone ship in the bottom left corner there. The lights.
It was.
You see those grid fins working away there? Feed from just read the instructions on the right. Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Feeds are a little bit off, not quite synced, but there we go. Successful touchdown of booster B1077 aboard the drone ship. Just read the instructions. SpaceX making it look easy.
It's a good thing they're launching more Starlinks to improve that connection.
Yeah, no kidding. And at this point in time, Falcon 9's upper stage is continuing to fire, but we are rapidly approaching SECO 1, or second engine cutoff 1. Any second now, we should see the MVAC shutdown. Oh, bingo, right on cue.
At least he didn't say bingo right in the center.
Right? Yeah, no kidding. Well, and as you can see on your screen right now, that is an empty Slick 40, which is what we like to see. Transporter erector hanging away on the right-hand side of the crew access tower. Man, that was gorgeous. I don't know about you, Sawyer. I'm not sure if you could see it from your window or something, but that was stunning. Night
I don't
launches
have a
here
window in
never,
my
never.
office that looks that way, unfortunately, but I'm sure.
No. Okay. Oh man, that's okay. That's okay. It's
I'll be
like
up there tomorrow. I'll see two
I
of
was
them
just
in
gonna
person.
say,
It's
like
fine.
you'll be here tomorrow. It's no big deal. You'll see some. You'll see
Exactly.
some. Now, as a folks, we have replays in works right now, so don't go anywhere quick. We have those coming up hopefully in just a few minutes from all sorts of cameras and all sorts of different views that we have here on Florida Space Coast. So stay tuned. In the meantime, I'm gonna hit some support because I'm a little bit behind. Daniel Hogpin gifting 10 Red Team memberships to 10 lucky viewers. Daniel, you are a legend. Thank you so much. David Miller gifting one Red Team membership to a lucky viewer. David, you are a legend once again. Mark with a storm message. If it'll come on the screen. Oh no. It's not coming up. That's okay. I'll just read it. Now you can say that the 4 towers are an advertising message for NSF. Love this shirt. Keep up the great work. Love your dedication to bring such great content to us. Mark, you are too kind. Thank you so much for your support. That means a lot. Mark Lamb with a $10 super chat. Seems like Sawyer may have used a pun token, so here's another. Oh no!
Yeah.
No! No, you can't do that.
They just did.
No, you can't do that.
Thank you, Mark.
It's not fair. Can't do that. Apocalypse Cow, another name that we see here very often, gifting 5 Red Team memberships to 5 lucky viewers. Apocalypse Cow, thank you very much. We love seeing you on, and we will hopefully see you again very soon. Cheers. And Ethereal Swordsman, another name that we see here quite often with a $10 tip. I don't think that's a moon jelly and not a real jelly for sure. So is that effect being caused by MVAC illuminating its own plume? A Mer jelly, perhaps? We probably won't ever get much jelly out of Starship. Not much particulate matter from Methlox combustion. At that the color and the plume that we see out of the MVAC goes away after about roughly 2 or so minutes, because as it climbs higher and higher, basically it's in a vacuum and the exhaust has nothing to interact with or react with around it. So in terms of what we see in the beginning, that is probably just the leftover byproduct combustion that we are seeing left from those exhaust particulates leaving the MVAC. So Mer jelly, that is probably appropriate, a very appropriate way of putting it. That's pretty clever, sir. I don't know about you, but that sounds clever. A Mer
I
jelly.
like that. Yeah, it'll be interesting to imagine a new Glenny.
Oh God.
Would that be a new
Goodness.
jelly?
Stop it. Well, actually, no, because with what Ethereal says here at the latter half of the question, we probably won't ever get much jelly out of Starship, not much particulate matter from Methlox combustion, which is also what New Glenn and the BE4s use. And that is actually a really good point. And we would have seen some of that on Flight 2 and Flight 5, because those launched just after or near sunrise. And even though the sky isn't as dark to get contrast against, we could see that there really wasn't much in the way of an exhaust trail. What's happening at LC39A? What's happening here?
Is the TE rolling back into the horizontal integration facility, the HIF, to go pick up the Falcon 9 for tomorrow night's Starlink launch.
Which is, as you can tell, launching from LC39A, which is always a fantastic pad to view a launch from, considering especially from our perspective here at the Kennedy Space Center press site. But Ethereal, back to your point, yeah, we probably won't ever see much of a jellyfish out of Methalox engines because they burn so clean and the exhaust particulates left over really aren't that big and don't react well with light. So probably not. That's a very good point. But hopefully we'll get some sort of effect, even though I'm not really getting my hopes up. We haven't had much of a jellyfish in a while. I think the one we had on Bandwagon 3 was actually a bit of a surprise, because SpaceX lofted and hurled that booster a lot higher than perhaps we were anticipating.
Yeah, I don't
So
think
that was
any of us expected
yeah,
it to go
no,
that high up, and so
no,
we thought, oh, there's no way to get a jellyfish effect from that.
absolutely not. And I think actually, one of us said on stream, I think multiple. I think it was actually you, Slayer. Not to put you on the spot, but I think it was you who said that because of how far after sunset we were, that we wouldn't see one.
Yeah, I mean,
Now,
for a
yeah,
normal launch, that would for a Starlink like this or a normal mission southeast, or yeah, we would expect that to kind of be it.
and obviously it wasn't because Falcon 9 flew at a much steeper ascent angle than we normally see, which is kind of rare, but also kind of cool. And we end up getting a jellyfish out of it. So it was a win-win for everybody, even though we weren't really expecting it. Question here from Tim's3883. Will SpaceX continue Falcon 9 operations out of LC-39A after Starship launches start from there? That depends on how the initial Starship flights go in terms of their impact on the Falcon infrastructure. As you can tell from our previous view and views you can see from Space Coast Live, which is our 24/7 stream here from the Space Coast, you can see that the FSS or the fixed service structure, which the black tower on the left hand side, which is what is used to support Falcon, is in very close proximity to the Starship tower, which is still within the pad gates. So, best case scenario, there is not much effect beyond what amounts of incredible acoustic energy does to just materials and the systems over there, which is probably going to have an effect either way because of the amount of just energy coming out of 33 Raptors. But worst case scenario, if there is, say, a pad fallback, God forbid, please never, there is a lot of propellant of methane and liquid oxygen both on board ship and the super heavy booster, and the subsequent explosion the pad would probably not survive. I think that's safe to say, because that is a lot of energy being released and combusted at once. So it's safe to say that ideally they would like to. I think Falcon 9 will continue, assuming operations go well and there isn't much impact and there isn't a whole lot to prepare after every flight. But that's also worth mentioning that's why SpaceX has Slick 40 and why it's designed for rapid turnaround is so crucial, because they can't really launch Falcon out of 39A rapidly, or certainly not as rapidly as they can out of Slick 40. So ideally, yes, but obviously, worst case scenario, the whole pad might need to get a makeover. But
And don't forget, we have 37 set to come online too for SpaceX.
we do, but that is still quite a few years out, I think.
Yeah.
Considering Delta stuff is still there. Rip Delta. Good rocket.
I mean, yeah, and they still have to finish all the environmental assessments and everything on it too. So there's still a lot before they actually get working on it. But we've seen how fast SpaceX can build a launch pad.
And or repair one, i.e. stage 0 after flight 1, and that just immense concrete crater that we saw there. But ideally, yes, Falcon 9 operations will Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy operations would continue there. So fingers crossed. Question here from Misty. Will we ever see a double drone ship landing for Falcon Heavy? Very interesting question, because actually, so between 2019 and 2022, when there was a big gap between Falcon Heavy operations, we have replays. I'll get back to your question in a minute. But first, we have replays. This one looks like it is from Fleet Cam in Port Canaveral, out of Rusty's. Fantastic. Literally, it looks like an artificial sunrise every single time. And that is just how bright combustion is between the RP-1 and the LOX out of 9 Merlins.
And I love how the camera makes it looks like an X for SpaceX, which is
fitting. That seems very fitting. But it's no video or photo really does it justice as to how it looks with your eyes, especially whether it be at night or daytime. It's obviously a lot more. It's more visually stunning at night because the bright exhaust contrasts so much against a black sky. That's why it's called that's why it's so easy to call it an artificial sunrise, because of how bright it is. Wow. Yeah, those of you who were in the port tonight had a great view as it was flying almost over your head going southeast. At least you had a great side-on view. Fantastic. Now, where's this camera from? Oh, Also, one of our other fleet cams in Port Canaveral. I think this is fleet cam 1 or 2, but also a great view, and you can tell just how bright the exhaust is by the ball. Fleet cam 2. Thank you very much, Gage. Wow. And obviously punched in much more. Wait, what?
I said Fleet Cam 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Fleet cam, yeah. I mean, it is operated by electronics. Now, this camera, I can tell right away, is one of our field cameras based here on top of the hut, one of our robotic cameras. And you can see it now ascending over the tree line here at the Kennedy Space Center press site. From where we are, or from where I am, I should say, over on the hill by our building, there is no direct view of Slick 40, but obviously once it ascends above the trees, we can see it. You can't miss it. You can't miss it. Wow. That is just one of the best things. It's one of those things where that you hope that as many people as possible can look at this at least once in their life.
It absolutely is a must-see.
It is, at least once. Whether it be Falcon 9 for a Starlink or a crew launch or Atlas 5 or Artemis 2, whatever. You have to come down and see it.
Literally any orbital launch.
Orbital launch, absolutely. And in some cases, suborbital.
Well, if you count Starship, yeah.
I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about like the missiles out of here, like Slick 46 and such. No, nothing. Okay.
I mean, no. Well, I'm thinking more like even some of the smaller rockets. Like I'm sure you can attest to Rocket Lab and Electron. It still puts on a show.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Ooh, we had a BTS view there for a second. Now this looks like one of Dee's wide cameras here from where Dee was over on the lawn.
And it sounds like Dee wasn't the only one on the lawn. It sounded like some of the dogs of KSC security were out tonight.
It was very loud after the launch. Yes, of course, from the rocket itself and the VAB squeal. As that sound started to die down, though, there was, just growling. It was to my left, to my right, and in front of me from all of the gators who were woken up by the rumble of the launch, and they sounded very nearby and very disturbed by the sound.
which tends to happen at this hour of the night and later, because they are not, they don't react well to the loud noises that Falcon and other rockets make when they launch. And certainly as often as Falcon 9 launches, they probably get rather annoyed pretty quickly. But yes, they do. They growl after almost every single night launch when there's just us here. They're so easy to hear. You can't miss it.
You absolutely cannot. And it's a good reminder for everyone. Like, we are in a somewhat elevated piece of land here at the press site. We're away from the water, but if you're going out to watch launches, just be mindful of the wildlife in the area. Make sure you're being safe.
100%.
As one of our friends put it recently, the gators right now have no chill.
They maybe that's a joke we can talk about another time. But yes, it is currently mating and nesting season here on the Space Coast for the American alligator, and certainly while they may look adorable at times, especially the younger ones, you should not approach them and just leave them be, because even though gators want nothing to do with humans more often than not, I just leave them be. Leave them be. Don't touch them. They're so dangerous. But back to the replays.
Small puppies, but yes.
Shh. It's fine. It's fine. Shh. Back to the replays. This is a view from one of our robots, and this also shows very well how the exhaust looks from the MVAC post-stage separation, and how it looks almost like a nebula or like a pseudo jellyfish in a way, but not really a jellyfish. That's just how the exhaust looks coming out of the MVAC. And here's that BTS replay. Fantastic. Yeah. You can see D's gear set up all over there. Yeah, artificial sunrise for sure. For sure.
I love this view.
100%. That is so good. Folks, it as cliche as it may sound, and you hear us say it often, it doesn't get old. And it's because of your support that we are able to keep coming out here and doing this. So we are eternally grateful for everyone's support in this. We have audio! Heard a lot of VAB squeal in that one. It was a loud one tonight for sure.
Oh, that VAB squeal! Everyone, I saw someone saying, "Oh, they're making it up. It's all a figment of the imagination."
It's not.
That's the squeal, folks.
It's not. Like, that is 100% not made up. But it's you again. As we've said many times, you can't miss it. Like, it's incredible. But before we wrap up with the slow-mo, I want to make sure we can answer Missy's question while we still have it. Oh, actually, before we do, here is a fantastic streak shot from our own Julia Bergeron, based over in Titusville, which is right just west of the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and the Kennedy Space Center. Right on the river there it looks, and it's an absolutely great view every single time. That's what we mean. Like, this is how it looks to you.
So great
Wow.
with the reflection and the color of the water in that one. Spectacular.
And this actually shows just how calm the weather was here tonight, because that water, even though in a long exposure photograph the water does look flat, you can see that there isn't a whole lot of detail in the waves or the water surface. So that is an indicator that the water was very calm tonight, and that reflects very well on how good the weather is. It was absolutely magnificent. Now, to finally answer Misty's question about a double drone ship landing for Falcon Heavy before we go, the plan was, I believe that was the plan for the Falcon Heavy comeback in late 2022 for USSF 44, but due to reasons that are not really within our knowledge or our understanding, SpaceX opted to bring both side cores back to LZ1 and LZ2, as we've seen with the first 3 Falcon Heavy flights, and they have done so ever since, with the exception of a couple of completely disposable Falcon Heavies. So we may see it at some point, but at the moment we have not.
Yeah, and also worth noting that right now, those drone ships are precious and much needed for their launch cadence that they're at right now. Because keep in mind, the 2 boosters that could be landing for one mission that then both have to return in that same amount of time, you could be launching 2 flights, as is the case with tonight
Correct.
and then tomorrow.
Yes. Any bit of drone ship availability is key, especially with how often they're flying now. So maybe at some point we might see it, but at the moment, it doesn't make the most sense. Well, folks, we are currently now at T plus 27 minutes. I think it is time to start wrapping up here and start thanking some people. Sawyer, thank you very much for coming on tonight with us and offering your amazing commentary and just amazing company. Thank you very much, Sawyer.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you, Max. I love when the Cape team gets to do a whole launch together like this. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, don't forget, we have Atlas 5 scheduled for tomorrow night. The window opens at 7 p.m. Eastern. There is another Starlink launch from the East Coast scheduled for a little after that at about 9:51 p.m. Eastern. There's also the Firefly message in a booster launch, 9:37 a.m. Eastern out of California. There's still so much happening here. So hopefully, Max, D, I will be able to see you guys at least and talk to you during that Atlas launch, which I believe should be pretty bright, right, Max?
It's going to be very bright, as they typically are with solid rocket motors whenever Atlas or Vulcan is flying. But actually, D, before I get to you, I want to make sure that I get this last bit of support here from Ethereal Swordsman once again. And remember, Atlas 5 is much brighter than Falcon 9 if it has boosters. SLS is orders of magnitude brighter but it doesn't fly. The new Methalox rockets are all much dimmer. Even Starship and New Glenn are way more powerful. Correct. Solid rocket motors are still king in terms of exhaust brightness, because they are great emitters of black body radiation. So, yep. And as we saw with SLS, which is currently, I think, rated as the brightest launch in history to this point, solid rocket motors are still king. But Ethereal Swordsman with the $20 super chat, again, thank you very much, Ethereal. We love seeing you around. Okay, D. I want to get to you now. It's always a pleasure having you out here with all of your camera gear, tracking the launches for us. I want to make sure that we thank you, and I want to thank you personally for coming out and hanging out with us tonight.
Absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with everyone this evening.
It indeed has. Folks, I am Max Evans. I am a spaceflight photographer here at NSF, and I have been your host this evening. It has been a pleasure, as always, to serve you, and we will hopefully see you again for the next one and for a couple more launches from Florida tomorrow. Until then, I'll see you next time.
And here we go.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside speed off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? We don't need any more of these.